by misguided legislators. Just because aggression levels can be increased or decreased through selective breeding does not prove that aggressiveness is genetically linked to any given species. People who are most interested in aggressive dogs and seek to use them for aggressive purposes expose them to environments that shape their aggressive behaviour. These types of environmental and social factors are ignored in breed-specific legislation. It is much easier to blame the breed or genetic makeup of the dog. Research indicates that differences in the genetic makeup of different breeds are so small that differences in aggressiveness are most likely not influenced by genetics. It is clear that behavioural differences in breeds have more to do with training than breeding. The common theme in virtually all attacks is that the owner had not taken appropriate steps to prevent the attack. Rather than target specific breeds, dog control legislation must emphasise responsible ownership. Has breed-specific legislation elsewhere reduced dog attacks? The clear answer is no. A recent study in the United Kingdom showed the rates of dog bite presentations to an emergency department were identical before and 2 years after implementation of the Dangerous Dogs Act. As with the current Australian situation, the United Kingdom Act had singled out certain so-called dangerous breeds without any substantive data to support it. So what does reduce dog attacks? There is no statistical, biological or behavioural evidence that any breed of dog is more vicious or more dangerous than others. All dogs bite, all dogs can inflict harm on another dog or person. Breed-specific approaches to the control of dog attacks do not address the level of responsibility exercised by dog owners. The best way to prevent dog bite-related injuries is through public education about responsible dog ownership and dog bite prevention. One or more dogs are kept by more than 60% of Australian households. The great majority of pet owners are responsible and considerate carers. They treat their dog with affection and as a member of the family. They care for its well-being, health and safety. Better management by government and owners alike is needed. Restrictive, oversimplified and ill-informed breed-specific legislation fails to address what is a complex problem. Breed-specific legislation has not reduced the incidence of dog bites in any part of the world despite a 20-year history. By its very nature, it is unjust. It removes responsibility for dog attacks from dog owners and places the blame on dogs. This is dangerously simplistic solution to a complex issue. Enforcing and administering any law comes at some monetary cost. The Animal Justice Party believes this could be better spent implementing fair and just laws that have an ability to enhance public safety. People determine what part dogs play in communities, and it is people who should be targeted by legislation, not specific dog breeds. Breed-specific legislation creates a false and dangerous perception that breeds not included will not show aggression. Every breed of dog will bite. Aggression is a normal canine self-protection tendency and can be shown by any breed of dog. The dog's breed is not relevant. The Animal Justice Party does not support this legislation in any form. At this year's federal election, you will have the opportunity to cast your vote in the Senate for a political party that is solely dedicated to improving the welfare of animals. That party is the Animal Justice Party. Sally Sutton and I, South Australia Senate candidates, are clear about the party's commitment to ending all forms of discrimination and cruelty towards animals. The major parties have had ample opportunity to put the well-being of animals first, and they have not. If the government will not address animal justice issues, the people will get rid of the government.
Yes.
The Animal Justice Party will be fielding 10 Senate candidates in the federal election across South Australia, New South Wales, Victoria, Western Australia and the Australian Capital Territory. And a word of warning to all other political parties. The Animal Justice Party is here to stay. Put animal justice issues in the too hard basket and you will lose votes. Thanks for attending today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks very much, Tom. Louise Gill works in the disability sector and is a strong advocate for clients caring for their pets. Dogs have always been a very important part of Louise's life and is treated as a part of the family. Louise has two Staffordshire Bull Terriers, one that she rescued at 7 years old. Both dogs have been a great companion to her through a journey of cancer, and they've been great playmates and guardians to her daughter and young grandchildren. Louise will be reading a prepared speech about Bear and Cuda, two beautiful dogs affected by BSL. Please welcome Louise to the microphone.
Thanks everyone for turning up today. I'm going to read this story out about a couple called Sammy and her partner Nathan, who had two juvenile dogs named Bear and Cuda. In September 2011, Nathan and myself tried to register our two pups, Bear and Cuda.
This is about dogs, not farm animals, mate! We're not talking about meat, mate!
Dogs, you dickhead! Okay.
Yeah.
Right. We were told about a new law that had just started in Victoria, but what we were told was that it was for big dogs. To make sure our dogs were safe and registered properly, we contacted the council asking if we had to register our dogs under the new law because they are big dogs. He asked what breed and Nathan told him they were American Bulldog and Bull Mastiff. The ranger said he would come to see the dogs to determine if they needed to be registered under the new law. He never mentioned them being seized or murdered. The day Bob Ianson came to our house, all he did was look through the back door, through the fly wire, and saw Bear and Cuda asleep on top of each other, and that was it. He said he was taking them. He never examined them or measured them. I couldn't understand how he could determine what a dog is by looking through the fly wire. We asked if we could take them to our new house in New South Wales, but he refused and said he was taking them. All I could do was cry, and he said they would be put down, or we could take it to VCAT, which is Victorian Civil and Administrative Tribunal. Bear and Cuda were in the pound for 10 months while we were in and out of court. We barely got to see them, and when we did, we were only allowed to see them through a fence. It was heartbreaking, and they looked terrible and they smelled disgusting. After they were taken, I couldn't even walk in the backyard without crying. A part of me was missing, and I still couldn't understand why they were taken when they hadn't done anything wrong. We were both extremely depressed during the 10 months, and it put a strain on our relationship. We were actually separated during the second court hearing, which made it that more difficult. We were unsuccessful at the VCAT, and our beautiful boys received the death sentence. We had organised with the council to have them put down on the 15th of June 2012, and we were to have an hour to say our goodbyes. On the 14th of June, we received a phone call saying that our dogs were being taken to Shepparton to be put down in an hour. We were told that if we couldn't be there in time, then that was just bad luck. I completely broke down. They had gone back on their agreement and were trying to make us suffer even more. We arrived at the vets in Shepparton 5 minutes before the given time we were allowed our goodbyes. The vet explained how they would be put down and said we could leave the room, but we refused. Cuda was the first. I held his head in my hands, looked him in the eyes and told him I was sorry and that I loved him so much. All I could say was I'm sorry over and over again. The most distressing part was they still had Bear in the room. They kept him in there and made him watch his brother die. Bear was stressed. after what he had seen, but it was his turn, and I think he knew that. I cried over him, and he looked at me with his big brown eyes, as if to ask, why me? I just kept saying I loved him and I was sorry. We purchased Bear and Cooter with the thought that they would be with us until they were old. We thought our kids would grow up with them and that would be our family. BSL destroyed us and broke our family apart. We miss our boys and not a day goes by when we don't think about them. I even had their names tattooed on my wrists so they would always be with me. I will never live in Victoria again until this law is erased. Thank you.